Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro. Well, today we're looking at Psalm 124. All this week, actually, we will be studying Psalm 124, and we are still in the Ascent Psalms. This is the fifth step in the ascent. This is also a Psalm of David. So not only is it a song of ascent, I said psalm, but it is a song of ascent, and it's of David. And we have here, again, this beautiful idea of who our help is. We really started that back in 121. It continued again, this idea of our helper being the Lord. It continued in 123 last week, and then today in 124 and all this week, we'll see this idea of who our helper is. This has been classified by many of the saints and past commentators of the Psalms as a psalm of thanksgiving. This psalm begins with two ifs and contains three thens, so it's a conditional statement, but with an understanding of what the condition results in. So this conditional writing is just like what we have in other places in the Bible. If you go back and look particularly at Proverbs chapter 2, you have three ifs and two thens. So here you have two ifs and three thens. It's meant to emphasize the condition that results. So if this, then that, and the then is emphasizing all that the Lord has done or will do. Here we have these conditional statement, or this one huge conditional statement, verses 1 through 5. Verse 6, we have this beautiful, what you would call the present prayer of God's people. Really, the request begins in 6. And then in 8, you have this wonderful statement of confession of faith. This idea that, our help is really in the name of the Lord. So we go back again to this idea of God being our helper. Now today, I just want to read verse 1. Verse 1 is the first if, verse 2 is the second if, and it's a repeated question. If the Lord were not for us, let Israel now say. Now, if you're reading the King James, that's my translation. If you're reading the King James, you're going to read it like this. If it had not been the Lord who was on our side, now may Israel say. And the King James the English is a little more difficult here, and the translation is not exactly, it's a good translation, but it's a little different, because the Lord who was on our side should be translated for us. If the Lord were not for us. And, of course, that does mean if he were not on our side. But the Hebrew is very simple. It's just for us. If the Lord were not for us. There are other translations, ancient translations, the Septuagint, the Arabic translation, the Vulgate, the Latin translation. They all have, if the Lord were not in us, or if the Lord were not among us. And those are okay, too, because the preposition there that's translated by me, for, and in the King James is translated on, it's one of those prepositions that you can translate in many different ways. I had a Hebrew professor one time tell me prepositions in the Hebrew language mean exactly what you need them to mean in the sentence you're translating. And here it's like that, for us, in us, among us, all good translations of this preposition. So is he? Is he with you? Because notice the question, if the Lord were not for us, is he for you? I mean, that's really where you have to start. If you're in Christ, if you're in covenant with him, if you're born again, then yeah, you can say, the Lord is for us. The Lord is for me. So now we're going to repeat that. Tomorrow we'll come back and look at verse 2, where the question is repeated, and then you have the first then in verse 3. We'll look at those two verses tomorrow. So join me then here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.